sunny Villamora. Today's exciting subject is shoplifting. Have your kids ever nicked anything?
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Well,
I mean, they might well have done.
what would you do? Okay, this is the scenario. Say you had, say, a 12-year-old and they cleared off down to the local shopping centre with one of their friends, and they didn't actually get caught at the shops, but you became aware that they had things, extra things, and you thought, hang on a minute, this doesn't add up, pocket money, what's going on? And then you got an admission from them, yes, I did actually shoplift it.
Oh.
What would you do? What would you do?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it?
So we're talking about, say, a 12-year-old.
Yes,
That
okay.
sort of, yeah.
So they should know better at 12 then, shouldn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
You'd have
yeah.
thought that they've been brought up properly not to steal anything. So I'd like to maybe hear from my children, because at this point, because I have no idea if they have ever stolen anything. Now, I have to admit,
You naughty girl.
I stole an eyeliner from Woolworths when I was 14.
Bad girl.
I know, and it's not because I needed the eyeliner, it was because all of my friends thought it would be a good idea and we're all daring each other. Didn't need the eyeliner, I didn't even wear eyeliner.
I think that's slightly, okay, that's ridiculous, naughty, very naughty.
I know. I've never stole anything since.
No, that's more of a peer pressure thing. I think that's probably falls into a slightly different category.
Yes, okay.
But you knew it was wrong.
Yes.
So
let's go back to
when
stealing properly. Okay.
James is my son, James, my youngest, you naughty boy James, my little baby bunny, he was 6 and he stole some sweeties from Marks and Spencer's. And when I found out, when I saw them, he had them sort of hidden. So where'd you get those? And it sort of obviously, you know, I worked out and pinched them. I took him back to Marks and Spencer's, marched him in there, and I found a lady in a uniform, and she was absolutely brilliant. And I said, this young man has got something to say to you. And she was really good. She realised what was going on. So she went, really?
Brilliant.
Really? So she said, right, I need to go and get my list. And she went off. She came back she went behind the till. She came back with a clipboard, well, like, just with a bit of paper on it. And she said, I need to add your name to my naughty list, young man.
Oh, good,
and
good
I mean,
one.
obviously, he's
That was a good one.
bawling.
That's
my
hilarious.
little heart is breaking for him.
Bless
But
him.
I did it.
Well
and
done. And he hasn't stolen anything
he's
since?
a little sweetheart, my Jim Jam.
There we go.
And she wrote she asked him for his name. She said, I
Yes.
can't hear you. What's your name? And where do you live?
God, I'm
Right. I'm
frightened.
just gonna. And she was fantastic. And she said, and then James was made to pay for the sweets that he'd
Yes,
pinched out of his
yes.
pocket money.
Yes.
And she wrote it all down, and she was making it, and she was, she winked at me, and she was doing more vicious bit.
Of course.
And she said, well, young
I
man,
love that.
so have you got anything to say for yourself? And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. And James is my loveliest.
How old was he, did you say at the
6.
time?
He's my loveliest.
Funny enough, as you're telling the story, I have just remembered one. So my son, Harvey Stokes.
Harvey.
We'd gone to Paynton Zoo. I've remembered this now. And he was only, I think he must have been about 2.5.
Oh,
and he was in a buggy. And we were going around the shop. You know, they always have a shop, don't they, at the zoo? And we got back in the car, and I'm oblivious to what he's done. And then we're driving back to the B&B. I'd gone down with some friends, and we were just staying in the B&B. And he suddenly produced this lovely little monkey. Lovely, cuddly little monkey.
Naughty Harvey the monkey.
And I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do, but I didn't take it back to the shop
He's
because
only
I didn't know
two-
what to do. He was 2, and he'd obviously grabbed it as we were walking by, and then just put it in his buggy.
Well, he was probably aware that he shouldn't have done it, but
It wasn't shoplifting, really, was it?
2 is a little bit.
Yeah,
little to put
exactly.
I mean, 6. James realised the consequences. He knew it. He knew what he's doing. He knew that.
But 12-year-olds and teenagers, 12-year-olds, is kind of well. If you think about a 12-year-old stealing, and you think what those
it could lead
those
to.
boys did to James Bolger, you know, a 12-year-old does know what they're doing.
Totally.
They?
But I think if my child was 12, I would have hoiked it back down to the shopping
100%,
centre,
100%.
made her give the things back, him, her, whatever, give the things back. Humiliated them. Absolutely
unless
humiliated
there was
them.
other consequences. So, unless rather than do that, there was other consequences, like, well, how much did all of that cost? Right, out of your pocket money, that's going to a charity or something. So I know what you're saying, that actually they need to be frog marched down to that shop.
I think so.
And deal
because
with it.
better at 12 than 18 or so, you know. And here, I think it's €300 before the police are involved.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I think here the police don't get involved. It's not a criminal thing. So you just give it back to the shop. I would do that. Humiliate a child like that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And make them face the consequences. And realise.
Because they're not going to learn, are they? I mean, I can remember. See, I don't think I ever told my parents I'd stolen this eyeliner, because my dad was so strict. I'd have been in serious trouble for that eyeliner, and I'm sure my dad would have done exactly the same.
Yeah.
Would have taken me to the shop. I'd have had no pocket money for bloody weeks. I'd have been doing jobs at home. I mean, I'd have been in serious trouble.
But good.
I'm absolutely right. Again, that's why I've grown up to be quite a nice, normal human being.
You are lovely. but at that age, I think at 12, 13, yes, they need to. Yeah,
well, they're very
definitely.
impressionable, so they need to know what's right and what's wrong, don't they? At a young age, really. And she or he, I don't know, she or he, whoever it was that stole something at age 12, well, if they're stealing something, they know that's wrong.
Yeah, but personally, as a horrible, strict mother that I definitely was, I would have taken my child back to the shop and made them face the consequences. And at that age, and make them address what they've done and think about it. And the humiliation is huge.
Yeah.
But
they have got to be taught. It's very, I don't even know why I'm thinking of this, but it's like when you have a puppy dog, isn't it? And you're training your little dog, and they have a wee or something on the floor instead of being outside. Didn't they years ago used to rub their little noses in little dogs' noses so that they're in the wee or something? I don't know. But
it's the same sort of thing. It's the it's facing the consequences.
An animal, isn't it? So when you're trying to teach somebody, there are consequences.
Of course.
There are consequences when they're at school. If they do something wrong at school, there's a detention, isn't there? Or there's, the parents get told if they're naughty. So why should it stop at somebody stealing something from a shop? Because I've had a shop. I've had my own shop.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had my shop, I had this child, it was actually probably an 11 or 12-year-old used to come in and pinch sweets. And if I caught them, they would be in trouble. And this lad used to do it all the time, steal from me. And we used to do newspapers as well, because we were a newspaper, a post office and general store. And on a Sunday, because we couldn't be asked to get up early in the morning on a Sunday, we used to put all the newspapers, we had like a little outbuilding and an honesty box, so that if you were taking a newspaper, and it was a lovely little village, you just put the money for your newspaper in this honesty box. And I think one Sunday there was probably about £25 in this honesty box, and that was taken.
Oh.
And I can assure you it was the same lad that used to steal sweets from me, but his mother was a very similar character, so he'd learnt from his
behaviour,
the behaviour, and thought that was fine. Because even when I mentioned it to the mother, and I would catch him stealing sweets, put them in his pocket or whatever he could get hold of, put them in his pocket, she didn't care.
Well, then that poor kid, he's not. He's.
So you're up against it, aren't you?
Yeah.
If the parents are not. Now, God, I would hope. This was probably 15 years ago, so he's an absolute grown-up now. I'd like to think that he's turned out to be okay and realised that was all wrong. But if nobody's telling him, but funny enough, he used to, after we were there a while and we knew that he'd stolen this money, we then embraced him into the family, because I felt so sorry for him, because he clearly was not getting any discipline at home, that he then became almost part of the family, and we embraced him in our life, and hopefully, I think, taught him a few more morals and how to behave. Because if it's all he's ever known, his mum was probably saying to him, go in there and see what you can get. So some kids have kind of not got much of a chance, have they?
Well, that's really kind of you, Leslie, and hopefully it will have turned that kid's life around. You never know. We do know what's right and wrong. We do, don't we? We do.
Yes, we do.
I'm sure I nicked things from shops when I was younger, and I think I was dared to nick sweets We did.
Yeah,
we,
I
we
think it
pinched
was the
sweets.
dares, wasn't it?
I think,
The
I think
dares.
that's what it was. It was about the dare, and it was about trying to fit in, rather than being stealing things because I wanted them. That's a different thing. I think it's a different kettle
Yeah,
of
it is.
fish.
But I think what we must all be aware of, and what we must install in our children, is these people that own these shops.
Yeah.
That's their livelihood. So it's all right having a dare, isn't it? And your friends daring you to go and pinch them. That person who owns that shop has had to pay for that.
Yeah.
That item
But
that you're stealing.
you grow out of that sort of
Yes,
daring
that
thing.
mentality.
But the shoplifting thing, I think if you think it's okay and you can get away with it, and
Yeah.
you're shoplifting things you want,
Yeah.
rather than nicking a bar of chocolate because your mates are all outside and they've dared you.
Yes.
I do think that falls into a different category.
I agree.
Neither
I
of them are
agree.
right, but
No,
there you are.
no.
But I don't know what else you would do. I would
Yeah,
I
frog
would
march them down to the shop, like you said. I think that's the right thing to do. I think
Yeah.
these kids
But I do
need
think
to be
it
disciplined.
depends on the age as well. I think,
Yeah.
you've got to wonder why when a kid is maybe older than that, maybe sort of 15 or 16, if they're shoplifting, why?
Yeah,
What do they feel that they need?
Well, I think when it
or
gets to
want?
that age,
Yeah.
I think they're stealing now to sell the goods on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, aren't they, to make some extra money for whatever
Yeah.
reason that might be, drugs, alcohol, or just to survive. So I think there's
Maybe that's
there's
a different kettle of
difference
fish.
now, isn't there?
There's young teen, the young teens, so 11, 12,
Yeah.
13-year-olds.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
yeah.
one thing.
That are
and then
still
as it
under
gets-
sort of parental. Parents
Give
are
them a
still
bloody
responsible.
good wallop.
And as my father used to whack me with a belt. Honestly, if I'd done anything wrong,
Oh.
I used to get the belt on the back of my legs.
My mother broke a hairbrush across my arse.
Oh.
I know. I've got a big bum.
I think
but-
now they'd be calling social services, wouldn't they? We'd be,
Oh, yeah.
Our parents would be in trouble now, wouldn't
Oh,
they?
she had there was a cane and we had a slipper. And I was really naughty.
I don't know why that
naughty.
doesn't surprise
Yeah, I
me.
know.
at all.
I know.
I can remember going into a shoe shop. You used to have to get your school shoes, and it was every sort of August, wasn't it? Ready for school in September.
Yeah.
There used to be a shop. Remember Stead and Simpson?
No, we had to go to the Russell and Bromley or Clark's.
Oh, well, of course, right. Well, anybody from the West Country will know Stead and Simpson, or whether it's just Western Superman. I remember my mother taking me in there, and of course they always wanted you to have sensible shoes, didn't they? So my mum's showing me all the sensible shoes. No, I didn't want the sensible shoes. I saw some with a nice wedge or something, and she's saying, no, you've got to have this shoe for school. And I created such a fuss in the shoe shop. Mother, I'm not having that. And she whacked me all the way out of the shoe shop. Good. She was literally going like this. Get out, get out.
Horrible
Like that,
little girl.
whacking me until I got out of the shop.
I smacked my kids when they were little. When they were little.
just
when they
tap
reach
them
up,
gently.
when they reach up, they're touching the DVD player as it used to be. Like they go like that, and you go, no, that's what I mean. And
Yeah. Do you know what would be funny, actually? If our own kids, if you're watching this,
Yeah.
if you could let us know, because I've clearly forgotten really what I did to my two. So if my two are watching, if you can remember anything.
I remember my Julia being really rude to me once, and I slapped her face, and she had a hand mark on her face. She was about 11 or 12 at the time, though. I know she had this hand mark, and I
But
thought,
I don't know what they're allowed to do anymore. I don't think you.
I think you have to say, please, darling, don't do that.
No, don't do that again.
Yeah,
I'm so naughty.
don't ever leave your kids with me. Don't.
I think bring back some of that proper discipline. Didn't do us any harm, did it? My dad was. I just used to be frightened of the way my dad looked at me. He didn't even need to say anything or do anything.
Yeah, I used to say to mine, I'm very disappointed. In a very quiet,
disappointed.
I'm very
That's the
disappointed.
word, isn't it?
You just go, and then
Very
they're like,
disappointed in you.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's all we need to say. I'm very.
Yeah.
You've let me down.
Unless it was Julia, nothing worked.
Nothing worked.
Lock her in a room, she smash the window and climb out.
Oh, we'd love to hear your stories, because
Yeah.
I think this is a fascinating topic as to how you were disciplined as a child, or how you've disciplined your children. Because,
Walloped.
but I think the slipper and the belt was used a lot for us, wasn't it, back in the 70s?
Oh, and
everybody.
slippered at school. I was often slippered at
Oh,
school.
that's reminding me. I had the cane at school.
Oh no, I had the slipper.
Wow, that hurt.
No, I didn't get that. We used to get the slipper across our bottoms.
Did you?
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah.
cane. I had the cane across my.
No, I
hand.
used to get the slipper across my, not the other girls in my year. No.
Just
I
you.
was the only one I think ever in my sets that was ever in the history of the school on report. You had to get your cards
Yeah,
signed at the end of
yeah.
every lesson.
Oh, do you know
See
what?
how your behaviour
I was never in trouble. It
I
was just
was.
the once when I was at junior school with Sarah Thomas, who was Sarah Broomfield back then, me and Sarah tried to get out of swimming, and we went back to her house because she lived just opposite the school. So we sneaked out and then sneaked back because we didn't want to do swimming, and we got caught by the headmaster, and he was a very strict headmaster. Got us in the office, and we got the cane on the hand. Absolutely killed. Absolutely killed.
I think I was slippered for being cheeky, but they said it was cheeky, but I wasn't. I used to sort of, they'd say to do this or do that, and I do remember saying to the deputy headmaster, "What on earth for? That's ridiculous. No, I'm not going to do that." Or
good for you, standing your ground.
Well, yeah. And not in a rude way, not a, who the fuck do you think you are? No, and just saying, well, no, what you're telling me to do is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh,
so
I
no,
used
I'm
to
not
do
going to
everything
do
I
that.
was
I'm
told to
sorry.
do.
No.
I never used to say boo to a goose. I would do anything. Well, I still have nothing's changed.
Anyone that went to school with me would know what a mouthy cow.
Oh, well, I'd like to hear from those that went to school with Dawn, please.
Please don't.
Oh, I was always a good girl.
I wasn't. No.
I can quite believe that, Dawn.
I used to just question everything. I used to think, don't tell me to do
Well, do you
something
know what?
that's
There's
ridiculous.
nothing wrong with that, and that's why you've gone on to do what you do, like being a writer and everything, haven't you? And write books. I think that was the inquisitive mind, you know, by you questioning what you were being asked to do. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? That's having a mind of your own, isn't it? But you've just got to like curb it when you're at school, Dawn.
Well, I do remember. I do remember one of the. I think I might have told you this before. There was a deputy headmistress took us for a lesson once, and she was a horrible woman, Mrs. Phillips. She was horrible.
I don't expect she's alive
No,
now.
hopefully not. Evil old witch. Anyway, she. I've always been sort of quite. I've always read well and watched loads of stuff and been interested in things. So I remember she asked this question. She was really smug and she was talking to us as if we were all really stupid. And we were in the top set. So she said, no one will know this, but, you know, so there's a new revolutionary thing that's taking over the world. Come on then, does anyone know? She was sort of sniggering and sneering at us.
Oh.
And I put my hand
Don't like
up
her.
and she looked at me in disbelief. She went, yes, what? And I said, well, it's a silicon chip, isn't it? Obviously. And she was like, oh, yes.
Oh,
well.
I love
and
that,
everyone
Dawn.
in the class was like, yes.
Yes, high five, Dawn.
She hated me from that moment
She
on.
hated you for
the
knowing
whole
the answer.
through
Oh,
school
God.
because I made her look a twat.
Don't you just hate
And
smug people, horrible people like
she
that?
absolutely hated me.
Yeah.
And because I always knew the answers. And yeah, I was clever at school.
Clever clubs,
I
yeah.
was, you
Know
know,
the answers.
I can make a
Yeah, good
Victoria
for you.
sponge and I can write anything. That's what I can do. But
No, good
but-
for you, Dawn.
But she always hated me all the way throughout school, and she had me labelled as a troublemaker all the way. Oh, you know, and it rubs off on you, and you sort of
and I'm
fit the
sure
way.
there's probably a lot that goes on now, isn't there? I think there's probably a lot of children out there that are at school and they might not be academically very good, but actually have got really, really good minds. And
Well, they
you
need
know,
more
are gonna-
vocational stuff, don't they?
Yeah, going to go on to be good entrepreneurs.
But I do think it is very important to guide your kids and make sure they know the boundaries and be firm
Don't
and
let them
stick to
steal.
it. No, stick to it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Stick to it. When
Yeah.
you say no, you mean no, and don't just. And I heard someone say the other day to their kid that their kid was annoyed with them because they were late to pick them up. Fucking hell. If one of my children had said to me, "I'm really cross with you because you're late to collect me," I would have said, "I can walk next
Yeah,
time."
walk
Sorry,
then.
excuse my
Walk then,
language.
you
Dad,
lazy
don't come
sod.
over me.
Yeah.
I would have said, "Just walk." How
Yeah.
dare they?
How very dare
How very
they.
dare they? They were lucky I was there at all.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
Anyway.
we used to have to walk everywhere, didn't we, when we were kids? Oh, they don't know they're born these days, the kids, do they? Anyway,
kids.
we'd love to hear your stories,
Yeah.
your discipline stories.
Yeah.
Would be
Don't
great.
talk to me, kids. Sorry. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.